is not alluding to Christianity. But I'm like, geez, guys, let's be honest. You watch this movie. This movie is fundamentally based on the faith of one guy in God. That's it. He says God, a voice in his head told him where this book was. He finds this thing and he told him to walk west. That's basically Abraham, who got who got told to kill his own children. That's basically what do they call it? Moses, who went up and saw the burning bush and came back. I mean, it's the same thing that we've seen over and over again in books in the Bible. That's what Eli actually is. And for anybody to try and argue that, oh, this movie wasn't really Christian. I mean, it has Christian elements. This movie is this film, and the way that I feel this film could have truly succeeded is if they just said, you know what, forget it. We're not even going to try and toe the line here. This is a modern day parable. It's a parable. So we're going to tell this story as, with the action elements for modern audiences and everything, but tell it the way a Bible story would be told about this one guy who just by the grace of God and belief in God managed to outdo his enemies and take the Bible all the way to the promised land or whatever you want to call it. Listen, if you just went all out like that, this movie is a smash. It's a smash. Because I feel that people are so afraid, and political correctness and everything are so afraid, and the studio were probably so afraid of we don't want it to go too far because we're going to alienate. But they've underestimated the power of actually being honest and true to what message it is you're trying to deliver. And that was my problem with Book of Eli. I'm like, man, all this I mean, this might be the director's choice. So, I mean, it might not have anything to do with towing the line. But all the slow motion shots and the allusions to coolness and this and that, and then, Mila Kunis I don't even know why she was in the movie, to be quite honest with you. I mean, maybe that's just for the fans of Mila Kunis or whatever, but I have no idea why she was in this picture. Because really, the movie was top quality before she actually came in. Like from the beginning when it was just Denzel Washington going, I'm like, I could watch this the main guy. We don't need any of this other extra guys, Then, which just messed everything up. I mean, buzzing to the end, but I'll probably come back. Are you going to try and tell me, okay, this guy is getting his face cleaned off? You call this scars on this guy's back, all right? This guy's gone through some serious pain. This guy is like a fighter. Look at the way the guy's dispatching guys, okay? Now, a guy who's dispatching guys like this and is still having a tough time and getting beaten up through his travails on this journey, you're going to tell me this woman who can't fight, that's the first thing, she can't even fight. The sword is about as big as her whole body, that she's basically carrying. She's now going to go out there by herself. Do you know that I give her 20 minutes out there? As soon as the first hijacker finds Mila Kunis, she's dead, wrapped up, game, set, match. So what's the point? I'm just thinking that, look, if a woman like this, after seeing what you've just seen out there, why the hell would you go out there on your own? What? I mean, maybe they're trying to say, okay, because she's now a believer, God is going to protect her. But no. The thing is that Denzel Washington obviously already, probably in his background before the war, was probably some kind of special forces soldier or something. He was obviously a warrior in the real world of some kind. So he already had skills that he could utilize, in this journey that he was on, which is actually maybe part of the reason why God picked this guy in this framework of the story. So you're looking at Mila Kunis, I'm like, look, this is obviously just an attempt by the writers or the studio, whatever it might be, to have a sequel. Because obviously they now want to have the part 2 where Solara is basically on the road doing what Denzel Washington was doing. And second of all, I want to ask a question. How did this guy even die? He was, okay, they shot him in the stomach, right? Okay, fine. So the guy was obviously messed up. So I'm like, fair enough, so he was dying. But then he managed to make it all the way to Alcatraz, right? So he's in Alcatraz. I'm like, all right, maybe this guy's going to clock out right now. But the guy didn't clock out. So the guy's in Alcatraz with this dude, right? Talking to him about the Bible, reciting the Bible. I'm like, okay, guy. If you're able to recite the whole Bible, shave your head, shave your beard, cool, calm, collected, lie down on a chair with your white suit, white clothes on, and be reciting this whole thing, what happened? as soon as you finish reciting the Bible, you died. That's just the most ridiculous. I just saw that this guy's like stone with Eli on it. I'm like, whoa, wait a second, wait a second. When? How did this guy die? And at first I was like, okay, let me look at Mila Kunis. Okay, maybe she looks really old. So this is like 20 years later or 10 years later. Not even 20, like it would be like 20 years later. But then I'm like, I saw Mila Kunis, like she didn't have any gray hairs. Then the old guy who was in Alcatraz actually walks up to her. I'm like, if this old guy is still alive, then it couldn't have been that many years later that um, Eli and Solara actually arrived there. So what the hell? This is just, I mean, that annoyed me so much because I'm like, okay, look, this movie, man, you can't have it both ways, guys. Okay, you've made something that is potentially so good and so spiritual and so nuanced and so on. But at the same time, some things are so you've thrown in so much that pulls it just keeps pulling you out. Like every time I'm like, oh man, this is actually really something silly just happens, and you're like, oh come on. Like for example, I'm not a fan of any kind of cinematography that involve things that cannot be done with real cameras. Like you cannot really rig like machinery to do those shots. So anything where you're going through zooming through a window, then zoom out, and all that stuff that they did in this movie, where they're like suddenly you zoom through the windscreen and then come out, or zoom through the windows, swing around. That's Bay, man. That's Bay. That is Bay. Okay, that has no place in something like this. It was so unnecessary. I'm telling you, like this movie had enough in it. None of that was required. Nothing. It was pointless. I'm just thinking about why, why? You know. So I mean, that bothered me to a great degree. Um, Other things, I mean, like I said, I mean, when you're talking about the developments, I did feel that look, at the end of the day, you've got Gary Oldman in your movie. That guy can do a lot of things. That guy can do a lot of things. Was he underused? Yes, I would say it was underused. He was underused not in screen time, but I think in technical ability. I think that there are things his character could have been more. Like I could see that, this is an interesting antagonist to Denzel Washington because this is a guy who doesn't have any faith, but at the same time still appreciates the importance of the Bible. So you could have this be a complete um, counteraction for who Denzel Washington's character is. So we need to get to know Gary Oldman's character deep down as to what motivates him as we do Denzel Washington, so we can really get the gravity of the clash between the two guys, the protagonist and the antagonist. And I thought, you know what? In order to do that, you'd have to lose a lot of other elements in the movie, which I felt were not really that necessary, to be quite honest with you. You know, um, what else? I don't know, man. Look, basically, look. After all said and done, I'll tell you this: this movie was definitely far more affecting than Avatar was. And I thought Avatar was good. And that's why I brought Avatar up in the beginning. I'm like, look, when the dust really settles, what movie am I going to remember more? I'll probably remember Book of Eli more than I will Avatar. Even though Avatar is so much bigger, it's so much crazier. It was fun at the movies. I enjoyed it. It didn't make me think that much, which is fair enough. It was never going to be T2. I wasn't expecting it to be T2. Um, but it was not an original movie. It was not, it didn't have a lot of original ideas in it. It was like we've said before, it was Dances with Wolves, Pocahontas, District 9, whatever you want to call it. It's the same thing, so you sort of switch off and you just know what's going to happen. So you're just wrapped up in the marvel of the special effects and so on. The thing about Book of Eli is that, like I said, there are so few movies are made like this in this day and age that when I'm sitting there watching, I'm like, man, I'm watching a movie that's actually making me think about religion and spirituality and stuff. Like, I actually think about like, man, because the very motivation of this singular character, and Denzel Washington portrayed it so well, is that this guy is just operating purely on faith. That's it. He has no reason to know that anything that he's doing is going to actually come to be or whatever. But you just see the power of it, of having faith and what it's capable of making you do or allowing you to do versus other people who don't have faith. And I thought that's just a very interesting